What's up, everybody? Welcome to my YouTube channel and thanks for watching today. So I got an exciting video for you. Now today we had Maxpeedingrods donate some steering system parts for my old work Jeep. This is my business vehicle. This is how I get around. This is how I make money. My power steering pump is starting to get a little noisy. My steering is starting to get a bit loose. So, they reached out to me and they asked if I wanted to work with them. I said, of course. And the only reason why I said yes is because I've actually used their parts before. I worked in a shop for many, many years, and I had multiple customers buy all sorts of suspension parts from them and never had a problem once. Even years later, I think it was 3 years, one guy did a full set of struts, and it was perfect. They were fully adjustable, so everything worked out good. So I decided to give these guys a chance and, do some steering system upgrades on my Jeep WJ. Now, what we have here, this is a power steering pump, and then this is the steering gear. This thing is monstrous. Holy cow, that's a solid piece of metal right there. But as you can see, it is a new product. Everything looks pretty good. I did a good inspection. Everything came shipped nice and neat. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna get set up. What we're gonna need is we're gonna need this Pitman arm tie rod puller and or Pitman arm puller. So the steering gear is here. The steering pump is here. And we're going to have to basically remove this air box, remove the fan. I'm thinking about doing the line also. And then I have some brand new fluid. We're going to do some Valvoline power steering fluid because it meets the spec. But anyways, guys, let's get set up and we'll get these parts installed. Let me go ahead and give you a quick example. So as you can see, I'm going to take this. Look how much play my steering wheel has. Yeah, I know I can tighten it up there, but this thing is original, so my plans are when I take it out, I'm not going to toss it. I'm actually going to rebuild it on my own, so that way I can learn how to do things like that. But, yep, she's loose. Look at that. This is a new steering shaft too, so I will not be replacing that just because there's no need really. But now that I have this air box out, which is super easy to do, you just basically unhook this here, and I already had mine loose at the bottom because it always comes in and out. So I just pull it right off, and as you can see, we basically have access to everything right here. So let me give you a little rundown on my game plan. What I plan to do is I'm going to remove the clutch fan and the radiator shroud. It's going to give me a little bit more room to work here. You don't really have to, but all this is really close and I want to have as much room to get in here and work as possible. So, I would really suggest to remove the belt, the clutch fan, the shroud, and that's just really going to give us some more mobility. You want to work in a space that has nice room, that's not cramped up. So that's what I'm going to do. So my clutch fan comes off quite a bit. So I can't remember which way. I think it's this. Yeah. If you knock it counterclockwise, it comes off. I just rented that clutch fan puller set from O'Reilly, so you guys can do the same too if you want. And then what I'm going to do is, so on each side there's a 10 here and a 10 here. Mine's a little easier to remove because I removed the bottom tabs because they are really hard to get to, and I don't know, the fan shroud is extremely stable without them. So I just went ahead and removed them. But yeah, these Jeeps, they're pretty, enjoyable to work on. They're not overly complicated like a lot of things. 10 millimeter. These are 10s here. It is kind of tricky to get this fan off, but I've done it so many times that you know, it's just normal to me. Now, try to get this clutch fan out. This thing is amazing in the Florida summer. Having a clutch fan and an E-fan. Dude, my Jeep runs so freaking cool, man. Literally, like, it's awesome. Okay, there we go with the fan shroud. Now we can have all the room we need. There we go. Let me go ahead and show you now. Check it out. So this is our pump here. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a 1/2-inch socket and we're gonna pop it in there and we're gonna release the tension on the belt and remove this belt. All right, 1/2-inch ratchet. Pop her right in this hole. And then, as you can see, releases tension. And all I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna completely remove the belt. I'm just removing the belt from the pulley that it needs to be removed from. Because that'll just be one less thing that needs to be done later. So, let's see. Now, I did spray these connections the other day. Definitely making some noise there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this clamp and then we're going to direct this hose into a catch container. And that's how I'm going to help to drain this fluid out at least. So, yep, right here. And we're going to drain it. And then what I think I'm going to do is also, let's just drain the fluid first and then we'll go from there. Okay. Right here, the clamp. I'm just going to pull that there. Got my bottle here. I'm going to try not to make a mess. Nice. Okay. Now she's going. Now I'm going to pull off the cap. It's leaking a little bit out of this side, but not too much. I do have some caps. Nice. The reservoir is empty, so that's good. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to switch this around. So I'm going to put this connection back on, and then I'm going to take the return line that goes to the bottom of the power steering pump, and I'm going to direct it into the bottle, so that way now we're going to be turning the wheel and forcing all the fluid out into the bottle, so that way all the fluid's out, so we try not to make a mess. All right, so once again, spray the connection just a little bit, so that way you just don't have to struggle when it comes off. So I removed the clamp right here, and now I'm just going to slowly kind of tap it down. You're going to need a 16 millimeter to remove this nut here, or fitting. So 16 millimeter. And then you can kind of pull up and over and just set that over to the side like so. And yeah. Now what we're gonna do is I'm going to start removing the actual pump. So you have basically three, I'll turn that off because it's too bright. So you have three, I believe it's 13 millimeter bolts. So what we're gonna do is, let me show you in here. We are going to remove the bolts that hold the power steering pump on. 1, 2, 3. I believe it's just 3. So, and that is going to be a 13. So let me go and show you real quick. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. Very nice. Just be careful not to come back and pinch the old radiator. But yeah, this pump was getting a little noisy on startup, so I like to replace things before they leave me stranded. So now that we've got everything loose, we can go ahead and pull this sucker out, and let's take a look. Look at all that corrosion there on the end. But I mean, it's still a decent pump, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rebuild it myself because I want to learn how to do things, and I want to save it because it's an original. So anyways, as you can see, I'm keeping the hose upwards, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to safely aim this into my disposal bottle so that way we don't spill anything. Now here's the factory hose that I'm going to reuse, because look at that, man. I just love these old Jeeps because they're just so practical. I mean, look, it just tells you pump end, and it's such a nice formed hose with this, you know, shielding on it, and it's just a return hose. So I'm definitely going to reuse this. Very nice piece of hose. What we need to do now is we need to remove this steering shaft. Now, I believe that's also a 13 millimeter. So what we're gonna have to do is get a 13 and pop that sucker off. I've got my trusty Milwaukee. And just like that, she pops right out. Nice little bolt there. We will keep that and reuse that. And now, removing it is pretty easy. I mean, I've recently done mine, and my Jeep is, you know, I'd say on the non-rusty side. And as you can see, this steering shaft is collapsible. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna I'm gonna push it right back inside, and then you basically want to make sure that it stays, you know, in the same direction, because what we're going to do is we are going to try to put it back on the same way, so that way the steering wheel stays straight like it's supposed to. As you can see, it is now. So now what I'm going to do is we have these two fittings right there. I mean, we don't really have to remove them, but I'm going to see if I can at least break them loose. Okay, so we definitely want to, you know, remember what position they were in, but that one breaks nice and loose. I did spray them the other day, so I'm sure that helps a little bit. Oh, nice. So that one broke nice and free. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove this hose, so that way it's just out of the way when we are working. Okay. Anyways, you don't need to see me do that, but let's get these suckers loosened up here. I'm going to push this one out of the way so that way we can access that one right here. Okay, now we have to remove the wheel, and I'll basically show you why. But let's see if this little 3/8 Milwaukee will do the job. Let's see. Struggles. Let's try overdrive. Weak. Still does it though. Okay. Okay. Get this out of the way. Now, in here we have the gearbox bolts. We have, well, no, actually 2 there and then 2 there. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to remove part of this inner fender well, and then I think we're gonna have to remove the windshield washer tank, and then we're gonna have to remove this Pitman arm, whatever. So who knows, whatever it's called, tie rod that's hooked to the Pitman arm, I can't remember, but we do have to remove that. There's a 19 on top with the cotter pin. So I'm gonna work on getting this inner fender well out first though. Okay. And then we have a couple of push pins. So one here, like that. I got one up here. I know you can't see it, but it's basically the same. That one broke, so we'll just have to replace it. And now what I'm gonna do is, I got one more down here actually, as you can see right there. So I'm gonna pull that off real quick. Now that I got those off, I'm going to just fold it back because the less stuff I have to deal with later, the better. Okay, now you can see the bolts I'm talking about, 1, 2, and then 3 and 4. So we're gonna have to be careful not to break anything. So we're gonna have to pull that connector out. We have a connector here with a locking tab on it, so we're gonna have to pull that up. Okay, so I'll just push it up like that, and then pull it out like that. Okay, and then we do have some hoses here, but let me go ahead. I'm gonna take those 2 10s out, and then we'll see how much movement we have, because I haven't removed this before, so I'm not 100% sure. Okay. Now, pretty sure there's more, but if I could not remove it, that would be awesome. But pretty sure that's not the case. Let me go ahead and show you. So here, there's one more 10mm bolt right there. So whenever that gets loosened, pretty sure we can move it out the way. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm going to unattach the hose right here, and then I'll put a screw in it so that way it won't leak all out. So since my Jeep has a 3-inch lift, the sway bar is way higher because it has extended sway bar links. So what I think I'm gonna have to do is I'm probably gonna have to undo each side of the sway bar and push the sway bar down so that way I can get this sucker out of here, because I don't want to try to do anything the ghetto way. I want to do it right. So that's what I'm gonna have to do. Yours will probably just come right out. And as you can see, I removed this side, and that side I just removed the top, and then I was able to slide it down. And now I do have some more mobility, and oh, I got one more plug here on the back. All right, let me get that off. All right, I got that plug off. Okay. I could have probably just moved it to the side, but I'm the kind of weirdo that likes to, you know, take everything out and clean everything up. You know, I'll probably waste my time cleaning this tank and doing all sorts of stuff. When I have stuff out like here, I like to clean all this and organize these wires, get everything all nice and tight, because I like to take care of my stuff if I can. So anyways, there they are. There's the 4 bolts. Let's see, I think so those are 18s, all of them. So I'm not gonna take those out first. What I need to do is I need to get this one off here because the steering box is attached to that. So what we got to do is get that sucker off there. And I have that other wheel jacked up, so we can just turn it as we need. All right, so what I'm doing now is I'm on my creeper, and I'm gonna show you guys, you know, I want to show every part of this video because I was curious. I checked out a couple other videos, but they were, no offense, but they were really bad. Really, really bad. So I want to try to make at least decent videos that show, you know, show most of everything for the most part. So gotta get that sucker out there. Man, I know I say this in every video, but working on rust-free stuff is just the way it should be. Literally. Like, you don't know how many times I've had to take out a cotter pin and I couldn't take it out. I had to basically break it and then drill a hole because it was just so rusted in place. And look at that. They just come out. Holy shit. You don't know how much stress I've taken on in my life having to deal with stuff like that. It's crazy. So let me grab my 19mm ratcheting wrench and then we'll get that nut off and then try to break that free. Okay, I got my 19. Alright. Yeah, I try to take care of this thing. I just bought a grease gun because when I moved here, I think I left mine in Maine. So that really sucks, but I bought a new one. No worries. Okay. Now we have to get this separated here. I didn't want to pull out my air compressor, but I did. And now what I'm doing is I'm putting this nut flush and I'm going to use my air hammer. Let's see if it works. All right. All right, that's all I had to do. But yeah, I was just spending too much time being skeptical and trying to not do things in a certain way, because I don't really like using the air hammer to do that, because if you do it wrong, you can mushroom the end, and basically what happens is you can't get the nut back on. But I mean, living in the Rust Belt, I've done that so many times that I know how to do it really well. What you do is you you put the castle nut to where it's perfectly flat, and then you can hit it there. You got to hit it correctly. But anyways, now that we got that off, I can pop those 4 bolts out, and let's pop up the old steering box. I'm using an 18mm to remove these 4 bolts. She's loose. Nice. So let me show you what I got going on here. So I just pulled this hose out because, like I said, I showed you guys how to remove that and that. So what I did was I pulled it up out of here just to get ready. First, I don't have any caps. I freaking lost all mine. But anyway, I got them bolts back out. Now, you just got to be careful because we are really close to the radiator and we don't want to poke anything. So, and there's a lot of hoses down here. So, holy shit. Oh shit. Fluid leaking out. Alright, let me set it down and I'll show you what we got. Oh shit. So this is the old steering box. As you can see, original. I mean, you know, it wasn't leaking or anything crazy, but it definitely had a lot of play, and it was just something that really needed to be done. So, but now let's get this Pitman arm off. If not, I'm just gonna go pick one up and replace it. Sucker's heavy. I wish I had a vise, but I don't. So we're gonna have to just do what we can here. So slide that sucker on. Like that. Okay, here we go. Just gonna look at it and see. Yeah, dang, son. Dang, son. That sucker is on there. All right, now I'm gonna try big boy here. I think I'm gonna ruin the tool before I even get this off, honestly. Yep. There we go. All right, so a little update. I just went and got a new Pitman arm because I don't want to mess around. Yes, I know that one's good. Yes, I kind of feel ashamed, but I don't really have time to mess around, to take that somewhere, to get it taken off. I just moved here. I don't have a ton of tools, any specialty tools or a bench or a vise or anything. And my Pitman arm puller broke. It is a cheap one. It's a rental from O'Reilly's, so that's just the route I'm gonna take. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically replacing the O-rings. I had an O-ring kit, so I pulled that O-ring off there, the old one, and then I got a nice new one on. So hopefully that should work. I used it from a Harbor Freight, you know, just a basic O-ring kit. And then here, let me show you guys. Man, this oil right here, holy crap. Look at all the metal shards in there. Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was still working, but she was loose. So like I said, I'm gonna keep all these old OEM parts, and I'm going to teach myself to rebuild them. I'm going to, build it up the best I can, and then one day I'll eventually swap it out. But for now, my next thing is I'm taking the power steering gear and I'm going to go ahead and put it in there. And I'm not going to put the Pitman arm on because I want to get it in there, hook up the steering shaft, and then check the range of movement, because this thing doesn't rotate a full 360 degrees. I believe it only rotates 90, if I'm not mistaken, because I tested this one. It only goes like this. So I don't want to put this in and then have the Pitman arm at the wrong angle. So I'm going to put it in, check the range of motion, and then decide where to install it from there. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. What I'm doing now that I got all of the new O-rings on my old lines, I'm going to go ahead and bolt the power steering gear onto the frame. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up the steering shaft. So that way I just want to make sure that the steering turns properly, because like I said, that steering box doesn't have a 360 range of motion. So I want to make sure it's in the right place, so that way the steering wheel gets roughly 2 turns each way. I don't want to have it bind up and not turn all the way, so I want to double check that before we install it. Okay, here we go. Steering gear is going to get set down in place, and I'm going to have to, so I've got it sitting here, and then what I'm going to do is grab my bolts, and then we'll do one at a time. Okay, now first you gotta just bolt, get them going at least before we zip them in. Hold on. Okay. Now here's what I did. I went ahead and put the steering box in. Luckily, the steering shaft went right on because there's 2 flat edges. So basically it only goes on one way, and it went, it went right in. So that's a good sign. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to just check the range of motion, make sure I get all my turns, and then we will, I'm actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly put on the Pitman arm and then see if it seems like it's, in the right orientation. So, if I go right there, we'll have to put that sucker right up on there. Like I said, I haven't done this specific job before, so I just want to make sure I'm doing it right. All right, I'm just going to check the range of motion now. So that's all the way over. It does seem a little far, to be honest, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. All right, so let me show you what I did here, because like I said, although, I am a mechanic, there's some things I haven't done, and I'm just not gonna say I know how to do everything. But what I did was I mopped everything up. So this is loose, that's still loose. I put everything on, and I suggest you to do this too. Make sure you get the full range of motion. So you get in your car, turn it all the way, make sure nothing hits, make sure everything. Make sure you get, your 2.5 turns each way. Make sure everything's good before you bolt it up, because you don't want to have to redo all this crap again. So all my stuff's mocked up. I turned it both ways. Everything's lightly hooked up. I got this steering shaft. It turns nice and tight. There's just that little bit of play there, but once the steering wheel is actually turning, it feels really nice. And obviously everything is still loose, so it will be a little loose until then. But all right, guys, now that everything is for sure, let's go ahead and start tightening everything up. All right, now we need to get our, it was a 33 millimeter. And we are going to tighten this sucker here. What I am probably going to do though, real quick, just put some grease on it, because that sucker, you saw the old one, that sucker broke. That thing is not coming off unless you torch it, do all kinds of stuff, and I ain't really got a torch, and I don't really want a torch, because I kind of, you know what I'm saying? I left that life behind. You know what I'm saying? I left that thug life, that hard life behind. So no more torches for me. Boy, I done inhaled enough torch fumes in my life, and I ain't really about that life no more, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just gonna enjoy this Florida lifestyle. Try to, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'll tell you what. That other Pitman arm, that sucker was on there. Holy cow. It was bad. Alright. So, I got my 33 millimeter, and we're just gonna suck it up on there. Okay, now I got my 19 millimeter, and we're just pulling this drag link up on there tight. I believe these are supposed to be around 40 foot-pounds. So, but as long as it's nice and tight and lined up on the hole, you should be good. And that one is lined right up. Nice. Okay, now I'm just getting everything in line. I got everything tightened up, made sure the Pitman arm was, on there like it's supposed to be. Like I said, before you go bolting this thing down, you need to make sure that the wheel is centered, that it goes 2.5 turns each way. Make sure the wheel is in the center, and then you want to put this thing on and make sure that it comes out and goes over properly without hitting anything or without getting too far this way. You want to make sure it's nice and center. When it's center, it's supposed to be, where is it? It's supposed to be right there, just about. So that's center. All right, guys, let's get into bolting and putting everything up, and then we'll test this sucker out. I'm just getting I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but what I have now, I have this line in. I'm gonna pop this cover out, and now what I'll do is I'll get the new power steering pump, and then we'll put that new line in place and get everything lightly in place. and start getting everything bolted up, get all these hoses clamped down. And here's the nice pump they sent me. The thing I really like about this is that it comes with a pulley. A lot of them don't, and you know, they're just a real freaking pain to put on. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the OEM one comes with a plastic pulley, and this is a nice heavy metal pulley. Look at that. She looks pretty good. Nice new cap, everything. So that's awesome. Thank you, Maxpeedingrods. We'll get this sucker installed. Okay, so here's our power steering pump. Now, what I'm gonna do is, I got my 3 bolts. I'm just gonna lightly put it in place here. So it goes between these 2 brackets here, and remember, you have to turn the pulley so that way the hole reveals the actual bolt hole. Last one right there. Okay, so now that those are loosely on, we have our power steering fitting hose here, and like I said, I'm gonna reuse these hoses because one of them's been replaced and one of them, this sucker, is still nice. And I'm a real big fan of OEM stuff if possible, you know what I mean? There's certain things, I get it, you know, these new parts I'm using aren't OEM, but not everything can be. But some stuff, yeah, some stuff can. And when it can, I like to keep it. So, anyways, we have a power steering filter that we're actually going to be installing. Let me show you. I have a filter, Master Pro, magnetic, with the clamps. Very nice. Always flush. One thing I did too with my old hose, I let it drain overnight and then I blew it out really good to get all the fluid out. So it's pretty dry. There shouldn't be anything in there. So anyways, cut the power steering return hose from the steering gear rack or power steering pump to accept the inline filter. Install filter using hose clamps. Note flow arrow should point towards pump. Refill pump and bleed air from power steering, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I got the power steering filter here and it says flow up. So we're gonna install it just like that. I wonder which end goes on the pump. Love these freaking hoses, man. All the hoses on this vehicle. I know it's like simple stuff, but man, I just love Mopar for some of the things they've done or do or did, whatever. So, but yeah, that hose goes just like that. All right, here's my creation. Got it on, got the clamps, 1 and 2. So now it's time to put her on and get this project rolling. Okay, hose is on right here. I got all 3 of these bolts tightened up. I just double checked them. I'll triple check them here on camera just in case. Oh yeah, and by the way, this new pulley is metal or whatever, and the old one is plastic. You know, I don't know if there's any benefits or whatever, but those are the facts. All right, now let's see how this sucker goes on. So remove this cap here. She goes over like that. Okay. One thing I did notice about this steering gear is One of the holes is slightly, you know, kind of in a different place. It's slightly moved over. And one thing I also noticed that's better too, the factory steering gear like basically would hit the radiator, and this one doesn't. So guess they kind of improved the design, which is good. So I'm just gonna get that one finger tight there, and then I have to get these two tight down here. I've got a couple extra transmission cooler hoses that I added, so those are kind of in the way. So I'm just trying to figure out my new routing, I guess. It is a little packed right here because of basically all the cooling hoses run right through this little gap here. I didn't really plan it like that, but that's basically how it works out. So, all right, now we're tightening up the pressure hose with an 18. It does get kind of tight in here. Some people may use a crow's foot. I do have a set, so I don't know. I don't think I'll need them though. So I'm just gonna thread this in, double check, make sure the hoses are all, you know, make sure some of the hoses aren't rubbing on other things. Like this. Tighten this sucker here. Now it's time to pop this belt back on. Like I showed you guys earlier, I did not pop the whole thing off. I just popped a portion of it off so that way when I go to put it back on, she's nice and easy to do. You know what I'm saying? So, pop your 1/2 inch ratchet in. Pull down just like that. And you are all friggin' set. Double check everything. Should be good. Very nice, very nice. So let's do a little checklist before we add fluid and start everything up. So make sure you got this tight. Make sure you got all your clamps tight. Make sure nothing's hitting the steering shaft. Let's see. Make sure your bolts here are tight. Make sure these two fittings are tight. And then underneath, we got the Pitman arm and the drag link. Make sure you get your cotter pin back in there. I gotta crisscross that. Make sure your Pitman arm is tight. And what I'm gonna do now I've done this quite a few times. What I do is I just bleed my power steering system. What I do is I'll fill it up. I have the wheels off the ground, and then I'll turn it from lock to lock, so that way when I basically turn the car on, you know, it's not like dry, and you can almost perfectly bleed this thing without even turning it on. You just get in, turn it, check it, turn it, check it, turn it, check it, and then after you do that a couple times, you can just turn it, turn it, turn it, and then you just keep doing that until basically it doesn't take any more fluid. Just basically do that until it stays level, and then what you do is you turn it on and you let it run. It may whine for a little bit. It just depends really, but I've done jobs where I bled them good, but they still whine, and then soon after you drive them for like a day, they'll just be perfect. So anyways, what I'm gonna do is, as you can see, I'm filling it up with nice, clean, beautiful Valvoline power steering fluid. And you see we're at the top. Now, I'm just gonna get in and let's see, we'll turn it to the right first. So I'm gonna turn it all the locks. All right, let's see what it did. All right, so a little bit, but you know, we're gonna have to definitely go for quite a few turns here. Nice, and we're slowly dropping. So what we're gonna have to do is we're just gonna have to basically do that, you know, quite a few times, and then what we'll do is we'll start it up and check it. Okay, moment of truth. I got everything bled. I got this on. Now we're just gonna start it just to make sure everything seems okay. But yeah, I'm pretty nervous. So get my P-brake on. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, turn it a couple times and then we'll go turn it off and see what kind of fluid we got. Okay, getting a little quieter. For sure. Okay, turn it all the way this way. Turn it all the way this way. Okay. Let's go see. Alright, she definitely went down a bit. So, what we're going to do is we're going to fill her up and then check for leaks down here. I did try to dry everything up, so hopefully we don't get any hose leaks or anything, but the steering did feel a little stiff, but I'm sure that's normal. I know I gotta get some power, so I gotta get some fluid down to that steering gear. So all right, let's try it again, see what happens. All right, so I got her all bled. Everything went successful. So now we're just gonna go on a quick test drive, make sure everything's good, and then yeah, that'll be the conclusion of this video. All right, so we're on the test drive now. Look at that, boys. She is driving smooth as a mofo. Yes, sir. Man, I put so much work and hard, you know, just long hours into this Jeep, and over the years it has really paid off. You know, I own this thing, it runs so good, it gets me to where I need, it freaking has, oh, man, I love it. I would, if I can, I'll keep this thing forever. But anyways, guys, I highly suggest Maxpeedingrods as a good company. If you need, you know, good, affordable parts, you know, they stick by their warranty. They'll do what they have to. They have good suspension parts. You know, if you don't want to spend an arm and a leg, you know, give them a shot. Not everybody can buy top of the line, you know, super expensive parts, and you know, they definitely have affordable stuff, you know, that's good quality. So yeah, man, my discount code is in the description. If you guys want to buy something, use my discount codes at checkout, so that way you can get a discount. And yeah, man, subscribe to the channel, give me a like, and follow what I'm doing. Man, you know, just around Central Florida here, fixing people's cars, running my own business, and just trying to, you know, make my own way in this world. But anyways, once again, guys, thank you for all of your support. If you made it this far, you're an OG. I appreciate it. All right, guys, have a good one. Peace.